Oh my goodness. Now, what I'm going to do, let me show you, baby birds. See all these tabs here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's all Mehdi Hasan tabs. But I have actually highlighted a few because I thought we might run short of time, which I think are the best. This is an hour-long conversation, and I've got 9 clips out of it, and I could have 39. Like every time they talked, we could have reviewed it and looked at it. But let's just go through a few of the ones that I purposefully starred in my own little book here. So I thought if we run out of time or run short, that these are the best bits. So this commentary here is happening halfway through the show, and it's Piers both siding an occupation. You know, people both sides something. So this is an example of Piers Morgan both siding something.
You're always very keen to put it all on Israel.
No, because if we're talking about...
I try and be a little bit more like, hang on, when you commit a terror attack...
Yeah, you both sides occupation and illegal...
No, I don't.
Yeah, you are. You just said...
I don't.
I try and be fair. You can't be fair to an occupier. By the way, when we talk about Russia and Ukraine, this is what frustrates me. And I know my friend Owen Jones sat here and...
This is brilliant. He makes Morgan look like a fool. Last time we talked about Piers Morgan, we said he's no longer a journalist. This just proves it time and time and time again. You can call him a chat show host, you can call him a shock jock, you can call him an interviewer, but he is no longer a journalist.
Said the same thing to you. When we talk about Russia, Ukraine, you don't do both sides. You blame Russia as the invader and occupier. You don't do that with Israel. That is the double standard on your part.
No,
I try and be consistent, Piers. I'm morally consistent. I say Russia, hold on, let me finish the sentence. Russia illegally invaded and occupied Israel.
Just so you're, in case you're just joining us, it's not Mehdi's show. I know it feels like Mehdi's show, the way he's controlling this. It's actually not his show.
Someone just comes out and puts tape over Piers
And
Morgan.
Israel is doing the same thing in the West Bank, Gaza, the Golan Heights.
As you know, they are completely different.
Yeah, Israel's worse. It's been going on much longer. People living under much worse conditions. And they've killed more kids.
There is no similarity in these two situations.
Agreed. Israel's is worse.
It's not.
How many kids have been killed in Ukraine versus Gaza?
Well, in 1 year.
Ever.
In 1 year?
Ever. Take whatever point you want. More kids have been killed in Gaza than in Ukraine.
Okay.
Every human rights group agrees with that.
What's happened in Ukraine, and we can come to Ukraine. What happened in Ukraine is a Russian dictator invaded illegally.
We agree on Ukraine.
Yeah.
But we don't agree on Israel because you're not consistent.
I think Israel is much more complicated.
That's complicated, as my friend Ta-Nehisi Coates pointed out the other way, is just a good way of avoiding attributing moral responsibility. It's complicated. No, it's not complicated, actually. Israel is the occupier under international law. Israel is the one killing the vast majority of civilians. Right now, it's not a liberal democracy. It's run by neo-fascists right now.
Well, I don't disagree with you. There are some right-wing headbangers on that cabinet. I also think that Netanyahu has to go. I also think the whole of Hamas have to go, right?
Under no scenario is it liberal democracy right now. Palestinians do not have the same rights.
But let me come.
There you go. So there's number one. Honestly, Chewie, this is just goes and goes and goes and goes. We'll go straight to the other clip because this is actually where he once again has his hypocrisy around Israel pointed out. This is Piers Morgan, by the way.
I'm saying that the way of the gun, the military solution to everything, is a failure, whether you think it's moral or immoral.
How should Israel respond?
I've told you, end the occupation. You don't want to talk about the occupation, Piers. You don't want to talk about the 500 dead. I'm telling you that's the root cause. Israel wants to do everything except what every smart person is telling them to do. Even members of their own security establishment are telling them to do. End the occupation. And then see what happens.
You say
nobody's waking up in the morning saying we want to kill Israel for no reason.
You say, Mehdi, all roads lead to the occupation.
Yes.
Okay? Israel would say all roads lead to Iran.
Who cares what Israel says? They've lied for the last year. They've lied
Who cares
for 30
what they
years.
say?
Yeah, do you care what Russia says?
No.
This is what I'm saying. You're inconsistent. The occupier and the invader doesn't... I don't care
It's not a barbaric...
If you're a liberal
circle,
democracy,
man.
they're not a liberal democracy. And second of all...
Well, they are.
No, they're not. They're an ethnocracy. But even if they were a liberal democracy, you don't get to invade other people's land. That's not an excuse. Piers, you sound like you're justifying an illegal military occupation here.
No, I'm not.
You just did. You said they're a liberal democracy. Sounds like you're justifying occupation.
You're extrapolating two things together. Why?
I said it's an occupation. You said, but they're a liberal democracy. Sounds like a justification.
I'm just coming back to one thing.
He's so good.
God damn.
He's so good. And needless to say, it won't evolve in anything, but I have already tried to get Mehdi Hasan on this show. We'll see. So Chewie, look, I've got more to go, mate. I've got plenty more, but there's a space for you to chat so far.
He's absolutely correct. Like I love it. Piers' whole thing seems to be getting publicly owned. And go, no, I didn't. That's not what I said. Oh no. I don't see that this is a hard thing to hold in your mind at the same point. Russia invaded Ukraine. So Russia bad. Russia do war crimes. Russia bad. Ukraine, good guy. See? Very easy. And then I can see here that if you just take what Hamas did on October 7th, you go, that's very bad. That is very bad. It's not as bad as what Israel said it was. Now, remember, Israel lied to everyone. Babies in ovens, babies being raped, headless babies. None of that happened. None of it. They haven't produced any proof. They have rebuffed every opportunity to get those hostages back because they have taken the opportunity to completely flatten Gaza. They've gone from the top all the way down the bottom, and then they've gone from the bottom all the way to the top. They keep on dropping bombs on tents. Like, it is very clear to me that Israel are the bad guys here.
Yeah.
Hamas, not good guys. Not good guys.
I think that's pointed out beautifully. And the next clip we're going to play, I've just headlined Piers' inconsistency. So we might have a strike 3 coming up for him in that same kind of block. But look, Spit Icor says, I would love to if Mehdi came on the show, but I think we probably need another 1 million viewers on stream before we get him. Yeah, I think you're probably right. So that's up to you guys. It's got nothing to do with me and Chewie. That's your guys' responsibility, not ours. We do what we do. You guys do the rest. All right, let's have another clip. And you know what, Chewie? Because you've just brought up October 7th, there is going to be some other clips I play rather than the most important starred ones, because there is a part where they talk about using October 7th as an excuse. It's a very interesting kind of interaction as well. This is some more on Piers' hypocrisy.
Don't you think someone like you with your huge platform should be calling that out consistently?
I do, but I also
No,
think...
you just gave me a whole thing. Iran backs Hamas, Hezbollah, terrorism. That just sounds like an Israeli narrative.
You take one side completely.
Just like you do in Ukraine.
No, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm consistent. I take the side of the Ukrainian people under occupation and the Palestinian people under occupation. I'm consistent.
No, you're not. They're totally different situations.
You have to say that because you're not consistent.
And you have to say what you say.
No, but I literally described it. 2 people's under foreign occupation, 2 people's having their hospitals bombed, 2 people's having their kids killed, 2 people facing governments that say genocidal stuff. Yeah, I'm consistent.
One is a democracy and an ally of the
Says
West.
you.
And one is not.
Oh, ally of the West. What little slip in there? What's that got to do with anything? So allies of the West get to be genocidal?
No.
Why did you say ally of the West?
I don't believe what they're doing in
So
Gaza.
if Russia was an ally of the West, they could kill people in Ukraine?
I don't believe what they're doing in Gaza is genocide. You do, I don't.
Well,
genocide is the complete...
Put genocide to one side, whether we agree or not on genocide, and it is genocidal.
It's not
You
genocide.
just said they're your ally of the West. Why is that relevant?
I think it's important you support...
So if you're an ally of the West, you get to kill kids?
No, you get
So
support.
why is it relevant?
You support...
You're making my point for me, Piers. I'm consistent. I don't care whether you're an ally of the West or an enemy of the West.
Fine.
I care about what you do.
Yes.
And Russia and Israel both committing war crimes, both saying genocidal
Yes,
stuff.
but Mehdi, here's my point. You are so blindly anti...
Does it sound like other conservatives? What I'm trying to say is, what I meant by that is, here's what I'm saying. You know, it's like that's an for some people. I need a second to think what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm saying, and then comes out and says it.
Israel, that you frame everything...
I could say the same thing to you about Russia.
I'm very blindly against Russia.
Okay,
yes.
then so again, so you're inconsistent. I'm consistent. I'm blindly anti-occupying Russia that occupies Ukraine, and I'm blindly anti in Israel that occupies Gaza. By the way, another area I'm consistent is I do think both wars need to come to an end, and they're going to come to an end through some sort of negotiation. I don't believe in prolonged conflict. I don't know. I'm not a negotiator.
What's
I don't believe there's a military solution.
One of the things that's also very, very good about Mehdi is when he doesn't know, he just goes, I don't know, like this. How's it going to come to an end? I've got no clue. It's not my area of expertise. And I think that in modern debate or modern conversation is a skill that too many people are afraid of. I don't know is a perfectly valid answer. If you don't know, unfortunately, and you see it amongst a lot of people online, they always try and have the answer. They always try, and what that then becomes is an ideological answer, and what that then becomes is like being a zealot rather than thinking it through. Sometimes we don't know, and he's perfectly comfortable saying, I don't know, which I think actually shows strength rather than weakness to be able to acknowledge it.
Solution to either conflict.
Give me the solution.
I don't have one. Do you have a military solution? I don't think there is one.
We can't possibly give Putin what he's taken.
No, I agree.
So how do you do it?
I don't know, but I don't think the military continuing helps. I mean, how do you win militarily? I don't know how that works.
Would you said that in World War II?
What do you mean?
When the Nazis were trying to take over the world?
No, there was a plausible plan to win, wasn't there, when the US came in?
Just to fight them.
And there were no nuclear weapons back then, Piers, as you know.
Okay, but you just think Putin would ever use them?
Do you not think he would?
No. Why would he? He's not an Islamic fundamentalist who wants to blow himself up.
Oh, that's a very racist thing to say.
It's not.
You're saying only Muslims want to use nuclear weapons?
I said
What?
Islamic.
Why would Putin not want to
I
use
didn't say Muslim. I said Islamic fundamentalist.
Why is it Islamic fundamentalists? What's
Because Islamic fundamentalists kill themselves to get what they want.
But they haven't used nukes. The only people who've used nukes in history are the United States of
You're missing
America.
my point deliberately, and you're playing.
No, because I just find
and
these
you're playing
weird
the race card stupidly.
You're playing weird asides, Piers. You're bringing in Western
I'm
allies.
answering your question about whether I thought Russia would use nukes. No, because
But the only people who would are Islamic fundamentalists.
They do not behave.
Western
He does not think like an Islamic fundamentalist, where they will kill themselves to get their goals.
You know, the United States of America used a nuclear weapon, Piers, right? They're not Islamic fundamentalists.
You're missing my point. The point is, Islamic fundamentalists will kill themselves in the process of destroying others. Russia does not want to do that. Vladimir Putin doesn't want to kill himself.
Fair point.
Right? So my point about the nuclear threats, which he does all the time, is he takes what should be a deterrent. Look, we shouldn't have nuclear weapons, right? Period. But we do. Russia has 6,000.
As does Israel.
Russia has 6. I'm sure they do. And I put that question to Netanyahu, and he fudged it. But I'm sure, of course, they do. Right? But the point is, I don't think that the mindset of someone like Vladimir Putin is to start a war where he gets instantly vaporized.
No one brought this up though, Chewie. Remember when the Ukraine conflict war started up? They were talking about how sick Putin is. Remember that conversation? So what if the last thing
down the stairs?
what if the last thing he does before cancer takes him the next day is to fire off a bunch of nukes?
Yeah, or what happens when the next rung of politicians down, next rung of leaders down? What happens if his generals get sick of getting gulagged for failures in Ukraine and decide to do a coup?
Yeah.
What does a dictator do when he's staring down the barrel of a firing squad or being hung from a lamppost?
Yeah.
If he's got someone that's willing to turn the key for him, that's the thing. Like, that's the fear. The fear is that someone with that power is going to do something that is not reasonable.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to address Piers's comments, there's repeated comments about Israel being a liberal democracy.
Yeah, go.
Because they have an election. The most recent election that put Netanyahu into power, his greatest rival was assassinated under mysterious circumstances. Does that sound like a liberal democracy?
It's, and also, like, I correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't North Korea have an election and it's like 99.99%? Then and if
they have democratic in the name.
Yeah, and if it's just about having an election, then why do they always talk about Hamas being dictators? There was an election there. Yeah, it was 2008, but they had an election. So why is that not a liberal democracy?
If you want to talk about Israel being a liberal democracy, does everybody that live in Israel have the ability to vote? No, because they're an apartheid state.
Yeah.
There's different voting privileges. Is Israel staying within Israel? Within their internationally agreed borders? No, and they never have. They are constantly nibbling away at the West Bank. They're constantly stealing Palestinian homes and land and building armed kibbutzes, armed and walled villages, and saying this is Israel now. And the stated objectives in Gaza, they're going, oh, yeah, we're going after Hamas. Well, at the same time, they talk about real estate deals. That's probably the only reason that they haven't used the nukes that they don't have. Is that it's bad for real estate values.
Yeah. They don't want the turf to be poisoned for the next 1,000 years.
We're coming up on a year since
October,
this happened
this
week. And we have found that no matter what the world's history and however many times we sit there and go, this horrible thing, we will learn from this and never again. We'll never have a Rwanda. We'll never have a Balkan conflict. We'll never have the horrors of the Holocaust again. Cambodia. We'll never have that again. We're having it live in Technicolor, in TikTok, on all our social medias. We're seeing again and again and again. And all that keeps happening is Israel keeps on getting aid from America to buy more bombs. the question of how this conflict ends, it's when the US decides to stop giving them bombs.
Yeah.
They can't make them themselves to the degree that they're using them, and that stops it. Netanyahu stood up at the UN this weekend and railed against the UN for being this anti-Semitic organization that's always had it out for Israel. The UN's part of the reason that Israel exists. Netanyahu ordered a strike on a neighboring country that had nothing to do with October 7th from the United Nations, an organization that was set up to stop war. Who is the bad guy here?
Yeah. Hey, again, there might be quite a good place to pause because I don't know. We'll see what happens with the time. I might try and play 2 more clips, and I have to apologize. I'm not entirely sure because I just wrote like a headline. I should have been more detailed on my script, but this one is caused the root cause of the violence. So this is about a 90-second chat between the two of them when they're debating the root cause of the violence. Let's have a look.
It is undeniable that the root cause of the violence is Israel, Israel's occupation, the genocide in Gaza. What did the leader of Hezbollah say? He said, we won't fire any rockets if you end the killing in Gaza. What did the president of Iran say? We won't retaliate for what you did to Ismail Haniyeh on Iranian soil if you end the killing in Gaza. What did the Houthis say? We'll stop blocking ships if you end the killing in Gaza. Where do all roads lead back to?
Why would you believe any of those people?
I don't believe any of them. I'm Ronald Reagan.
You're citing them as if there's sort of gospel statements from people.
Say that again, Chewie. We didn't hear you.
Why would you believe Israel?
Yeah, the exact point.
Like he says, we can't believe Hamas.
Well,
at every stage, Israel has lied to us, the international community.
And the point he's just about to make is, well, so don't believe them, test them. See what happens. Test them. And if they're wrong, continue on.
Any of them. I'm Ronald Reagan.
You're citing them as if there's sort of gospel statements from people who have unimpeachable integrity.
I'll tell you why, if you let me finish. I'm Ronald Reagan.
A bunch of terrorists said, we won't do X, Y, Z if you do this.
I'm Ronald Reagan. I say verify. Call their bluff. If they're lying, call their bluff. Stop the Gaza fighting and then see what happens.
Yeah, but Israel has called Hamas's bluff.
When?
There was a ceasefire in place before October the 7th.
That's not true.
Well, it is true.
That's not true.
Well, it is.
This is part of the bit I've been talking about where he's no longer a journalist. And Mehdi Hasan, I've never seen anyone, no notes, no nothing, knows it all, points it out, and embarrasses people with talking points.
There was a ceasefire in place before October the 7th.
That's not true.
Well, it is true.
That's not true.
Well, it is true.
It's fundamentally false. They were attacking Palestinians the week before October the 7th.
There was...
In September, you can Google it on that tablet. What's your definition of a ceasefire?
Well,
Israel gets to attack people and not the other way around.
Okay.
In September, hold on. In September, you just made a charge that's not true. There's a tablet there. You can Google it. Guardian headline right there. You can go see the news report.
I don't Google during interviews.
Well, afterwards, everyone can. There's a Guardian headline, September 2023, a month before October the 7th. The headline is Palestinians shot in the ankles by Israel in Gaza, attacked. There were airstrikes in Gaza. And by the way, Gaza is not isolated. Gaza and the West Bank under international law are one entity. There were several hundred Palestinians killed in the West Bank before October.
But my point to you, Mehdi, is
so there was no ceasefire. You just can't say it's just not true.
They would say there was a ceasefire,
and it's not true.
So here's one of them. Like I say, it's like everyone should go and watch this. I'm going to play another one because it's worth saying. You can see it's worth saying. This one is talking about October the 7th and using it as an excuse. That's the heading that I've given this clip. It's a bit longer. It's 2-3 minutes. Let's have a look.
You know, October 7th was used, as you and I have discussed before, as the excuse for killing tens of thousands of Palestinians.
Well, I would categorise it differently. I don't think they used it as an excuse to go and kill tens of thousands of Palestinians. They responded to one of the most egregious terror attacks of modern times.
But when does the response end? Nearly a year.
Well, that's the question. That is the question.
Well, that's when it becomes an excuse. When you carry on killing and killing.
Is it an excuse, or is it that they are wedded to the elimination of Hamas because Hamas has persistently said, we want to keep doing the same thing over and over again? And there's a correlation with Hezbollah, whose charter is very explicit. They stand for the eradication of Israel. I mean, that's what they're about.
That doesn't justify killing 500 people in a single day, does
I didn't say it did, but
that's what bothers me. That's what happened this week. That's the big story. Hezbollah's charter is irrelevant to what we're talking about. That's not why they killed 500 people on Monday, Piers. Hezbollah's charter's been around for years.
I don't think it's irrelevant that you have a terror group on your doorstep who are wedded to your extinction. Why is that irrelevant?
I think the language you use is loaded, Piers. You say on your doorstep. Do you know they did a poll of Americans a while back who thought that Palestinians were occupying Israel? When we talk about this stuff, we make it sound like Israel is the one being occupied, besieged. Israel's the one that's occupying the West Bank and Gaza, longest military occupation in the world, going back to 1967. Israel is the country that occupied southern Lebanon. I mean, everything, the world did not begin on October the 7th. 1978, Israel invades southern Lebanon. 1982, Israel invades southern Lebanon. Sabra and Shatila massacre. 2006, Second Lebanon War, murder 100 people.
This is one of those moments where you think someone's brought a sword to a gunfight. Yeah, this is just that moment.
Sabra and Shatila massacre. 2006, Second Lebanon War, murder 100 people.
But you always make it sound like they're just doing this for the sake of it. They're not.
What are they doing it for?
Well, they've been provoked by Hezbollah.
That's what Hezbollah didn't exist in 1978. Piers.
Okay, I'm talking about the specifics of going on now. The provocation since October the 7th. Hezbollah's first
we're just starting. Like if we'd played that Simpsons thing right now that stop hitting me, he's already dead. I don't know what you do this next part, because it's like he's already buried in the ground in his coffin and you're still hitting him from. I don't know how you do it, but that's what he does.
Response to October the 7th was to unleash rockets on Israel.
That's not true.
On October the 8th.
That's not true. That's not true.
That is what happened.
Where did they fire the first rocket?
They fired rockets on the 8th.
Where?
Well, you tell me.
No, you just said they fired Israel.
That is the classic answer from an interviewer. I might have used it once or twice myself, when they don't have a clue what they're talking about and they realise they've just been caught.
That's not true.
On October the 8th.
That's not true. That's not true.
That is what happened.
Where did they fire the first rocket?
They fired rockets on the 8th.
Where?
Well, you tell me.
No, you just said they fired at Israel. Where?
Well, they fired in the direction of Israel.
Where did they hit? They fired at the
if you know
Sheba
the
Farms.
answer, tell me.
I do. They fired at the Sheba Farms, which, as I said earlier, is an area of Syria. Well, the Lebanese claim it's Lebanon. Syria claims it's Lebanon. Israel says no and is occupying the Sheba Farms. They fired at Israeli
Into Syria at a military base.
military installations in the Sheba Farms. Now, have they got fired in Israel?
So
since?
they were firing at Israel. They were firing
Yes.
at an area that Israel says is theirs.
So goalpost shift. Get that straight away.
Israel
So
says,
they were firing at Israel. They were firing
Yes.
at an area that Israel says is theirs.
No, Israel doesn't say that. Israel says it's Syria's. Because remember, Piers, Israel is occupying Syria and the West Bank and Gaza and Lebanon, would argue, parts of
how
Lebanon.
would you-
This is the problem, right? The core of the problem is Israel's territorial expansionism.
It's a mess.
Attacks, not a mess. It's Israel occupying multiple Arab lands, which leads to quote-unquote resistance or quote-unquote terrorism, whichever word. I don't care what word you want to use right now. But that is the core, right? You had John Mearsheimer on the show this week, made the same point. Deal with the occupation, then you deal with the violence. And look, has Hezbollah fired into Israel at civilian attack? Yes, I don't agree with that. But the reality is 82% of the exchange of fire between Lebanon and Israel since October the 7th has been done by Israel.
Okay.
82%.
That's really important to hear. Remember when you hear people say Israel has the right to defend themselves. So what it means is basically for every time I punch you twice, you're going to punch me back 8 times. Defense. Right to defend itself. Every time I fire twice, you fire 8 times.
Israel at civilian attack. Yes, I don't agree with that. But the reality is 82% of the exchange of fire between Lebanon and Israel since October the 7th has been done by Israel.
Okay.
82%.
But here's
Is that not a provocation of
Let me
Hezbollah?
finish my point, which is that since October the 8th, 19,000 missiles, rockets have come from Hezbollah to Israel, right?
But way more from Israel into Lebanon.
Pat,
I'm sure-
82%.
what was that number?
19,000?
What was that number? That 19,000.
Yep. The Piers said 19,000 from Hezbollah.
19,000
into
rockets.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to mention something that the Israelis are quite proud of, rightly quite proud of. It's a very impressive system. They have something called Iron Dome.
Yeah.
That shoots down ballistic rockets. It has a 90% success rate. So when you're talking about that whole, like, you punch me once, I punch you 8 times.
Yeah.
Out of every attempt to punch me, I block 90% of those shots, and then I punch you 8 times.
So actually, that 20,000, so that works out for numbers quite well, 90,000. That means they fire back about 80,000. But that means of that 20,000, 2,000 get through, and you still send 80,000. So 2,000 rockets come from Lebanon into into Israel, and then 80,000 go from Israel back into Lebanon. That's the difference.
And what you're punching back with, they have absolutely no defense for.
Yeah, true.
There is no anti-aircraft in Gaza. You're punching with absolute impunity.
All right. This has got about 15 seconds. We'll just get to the end of it in case we've got a bit of gold we need to hear.
October the 8th, 19,000 missiles, rockets have come from Hezbollah to Israel, right?
But way more from Israel into Lebanon.
Well, I'm sure,
82%.
of course they've responded. What else are they supposed to do?
82%.
But
This is not two equal sides.
so they can't defend themselves.
But the vast majority of attacks is on Lebanon.
Okay, but would you...
There you go. That was that one. Is. Look, where our time is stretching, there is one more that I could play because he does do a very good, it's only 2 minutes as well, catch-all of Morgan's journalism when he challenges him on some of the numbers he's saying. What do you reckon? Should we do another 2 minutes or should we wrap?
Oh, I'm torn.
All right,
We have run very long.
We'll do another 2 minutes then. I think it's important here once again just to show you how he is no longer, and then we'll just get out straight away. He is no longer a journalist, and the example given when, and you know we like doing this, like we like drilling down into the data. What happens here is you hear Piers Morgan just regurgitating data given to him, talking points basically.
Where 3,000 Hezbollah terrorists were targeted specifically.
How do you know that?
What do you mean? How do I know that?
You just said 3,000 Hezbollah terrorists were
How
targeted.
many was it?
I don't know. I'm asking. You made the claim. How
That
do you
is
know
what's been
3,000?
reported.
By
Do you
who?
dispute that?
Yeah, I dispute everything Israel
But
says.
you
They've
don't know
lied
the
for a
real
year,
number. You don't know the real number.
But I didn't give a number. You did.
Well, what has been the number from the other side?
I didn't give a number. You said 3,000 terrorists. I'm wondering why a
That is
journalist
what's been reported.
No, it's not reported. It's what's said by Israel. Or it says what's said by people speaking on behalf of Israel.
So
was a little girl who
Israel
died?
has,
Was
Israel,
a little...
hang on. Israel hasn't even said it, did it?
They have in private. It's been reported widely.
you?
No, to the American government.
Okay, but don't
It's
say they said it publicly. They haven't.
But
obviously,
been
I
killed.
believe they did it, right? But they haven't
I
said
believe they did it
but
too.
You're saying they said
But
this in public.
you just gave a 3,000 number, and I'm wondering. I just saw a little girl's funeral last week. Was she a Hezbollah terrorist in your view?
No.
So then why did you say 3,000 terrorists? There was a kid killed.
I was about to say that in the process of targeting very specifically in an extraordinarily whichever way
In
you
a
look
terror attack.
Well, that's what I'm going to come to. So they target 3,000 Hezbollah terrorists with their pagers, walkie-talkies, and so on. In the process, a small comparative to that
War
number,
crime, by the way.
a small number of civilians get killed, which is obviously deplorable. But my point to you is, if someone's been chucking rockets over for a year at you and your people, you've had to display 60,000 people from the north.
The thing that he's so oblivious to, this sounds like he's describing Gaza and what Israel's doing, but what he's trying to do is describe Israel and what Hezbollah is doing. But if you listen to the words, it sounds like he is describing Gaza and Israel being the attackers.
Year at you and your people. You've had to display 60,000 people from the north of your country because of this relentless bombardment.
From Israel.
And you eventually respond in such a precise, targeted fashion.
Okay.
Right? And in the process, some civilians are killed, which is never acceptable, can never be condoned, never be supported. But if it is right, as has been widely reported by all mainstream media, that 3,000 terrorists has...
People associated with Hezbollah. Not everybody in Hezbollah is a terrorist.
Okay. But, okay.
Like a driver, a nurse.
3,000 members of Hezbollah were targeted, right?
Yeah, that's about it. So the point that he was making was when you just repeat the talking points, and look, everyone's been a victim of, I've probably done that from time to time, but we do like to go, even when you put up that photo before, Chewie, of the Atlas meeting, I'm like, I like to check to make sure that is what that actually is. Where's that come from? We should double check because we will always try our hardest not to just to put out their talking points. But there you go, Chewie, look. We pretty much got through all the clips. It's gone longer. People have stayed, so they wanted to see it. Go and watch the whole thing. I've seen people saying they can't watch the whole thing. But there you go. Oh gosh, is this good or bad? Piers Morgan is the Sean Plunkett of the UK. who does that insult more? I'm not entirely sure. That probably insults Piers Morgan more, to be honest.
The only way that Piers Morgan's arguments even come close to working is that October 7th was a starting point. And it is not. And I have said this so many times. If you want to understand what is happening now, you need to have a look at what's happened before. You need to see the pattern of behavior in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Israel, Israel's relations with Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, Egypt, the whole thing. Like we have such a conflicted attitude globally towards Israel because of the Holocaust, because Israel for a long time was a Western bastion against a Middle Eastern area that was heavily allied with the Soviet Union. It is drummed into us generationally that we need to stand for Israel as this bastion, as Piers said, of liberal democracy, and because we let the Jews get murdered wholesale in the 40s. Now, there are so many Jews worldwide that are standing up going, the reason that we stand against what Israel is doing here is because of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
They are doing the torture, the putting people in camps, the indiscriminate punishment murders that the Nazis did. The fact that Netanyahu and his regime want you to equate the Israeli state to all Jews. And so if you criticize the Israeli state's action, then you are anti-Jew, you are anti-Semitic, and they know that reaction that has with anybody that feels guilty about what happens during World War II. Now, I think it's pretty clear that this whole conflict and this wholesale murder and these terrorist attacks on both sides can be stopped tomorrow if America cancelled all of their aid and parked a carrier battle group in the Mediterranean and enforced a no-fly zone and intercepted anything that took off. Any rocket from Hezbollah or Hamas or whatever is left, anything that launches from an airfield in Israel, we could stop this tomorrow. But nobody has the stones to do it because we're not in a Tom Clancy book and these big things just don't happen.
And look, I just think that the idea, the thing that Mehdi did so well in there, he didn't justify any kind of illegal action from Hamas or any other group.
No.
So what he was saying was, what do you expect a group of people to do who are being oppressed? Do you expect them to push back legally or illegally? Do you expect them to sit there and take it? Like, what are our expectations here? What is the realistic response here? Not to support it, not to say it's good, none of those things, but let's be real. What's going to happen if you keep donking the kid in the face? Eventually, the kid's going to punch you back. You know, that's human nature. That's what's going to happen. And I just love that this line is made. And Piers Morgan looked like such a fucking idiot. Yes, I'm one-eyed when it comes to Russia, as am I, says Mehdi. And then Israel? No. It's like occupier, oppressed, bombing hospitals, definitely against that. Yeah, no, that's a bit grayer. Yeah, it's just not. It's not Chewie. It's not Chewie if what you're worried about is the people who are suffering the bombings. It is if what you're worried about is the geopolitical bullshit that goes on around it. That's when it's not.
Israel's turned themselves into pariah state and they've destabilized that entire region. And I think, look, I'm someone that's always followed like war history and geopolitics stuff, and I've looked a lot at as the Israeli wars of the Cold War, you know, the 6-Day Wars and the Yom Kippur War and all of that sort of thing. And it's certainly one thing that I've noticed as this discussion about Gaza and Palestine goes on, is that those narratives and those events were always told from a Western Israeli point of view. And the more that I go back and revisit them, I'm like, okay, I kind of see where this is coming from. I want you, chat, if you haven't read about this, I suggest you do the wee Googles. This is your homework. Google the USS Liberty incident. Happened in 1967. But the pattern of behavior from the Israeli state is the same. The cliff notes of this is they attacked a US Navy ship and killed or wounded 174 US sailors. They said it was an accident. My bad.